They called him ruthless. But he built an empire from nothing. How did a straight-talking investor become, well, a television sensation and a financial powerhouse?
That's a great question, and it's exactly what we're going to explore in this deep dive into the life of Kevin O'Leary.
You know him as Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, but his journey to success is anything but a straight line.
Right. From his early days to his controversial business deals and his, often brutal honesty on television, it's a fascinating story.
And for anyone looking to make their mark, whether in business or any field, I think some really valuable lessons to be learned from Kevin O'Leary's experiences.
Oh, absolutely. His story is full of what you might call hard-earned wisdom, financial strategic thinking about, that kind of resilience that can really make a difference.
If you're already hooked on this story, hit that like button. It really helps others find this live. Okay, so for the millions, before Shark Tank, who was Kevin O'Leary?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that he didn't start out with dreams of, building a business empire.
Really?
Yeah. His early passions were actually in the arts. He wanted to be, get this, a photographer or even a rock star.
That's a far cry from the boardroom.
It is, isn't it? But his stepfather, a very practical man, suggested he get a business degree, as a kind of foundation.
Ah, that makes sense. Practical advice that probably changed the course of his life.
It seems that way. And, even with that advice, he didn't immediately jump into the business world. He started with engineering, then shifted to psychology, then environmental studies.
Sounds like he was exploring his options.
Exactly. But throughout all that, his passion for the arts never really went away. I mean, he even took night classes in cinematography. The guy was working on film sets as a cameraman, a sound guy, a lighting guy, all while studying.
Wow, talk about dedication.
Right. He's talked about those days, working 25 hours a day. And that work ethic, that willingness to put in the hours, that's something that really stayed with him.
Yeah, I can see how that would be crucial to his later success.
Mm.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? There's that famous story about him getting fired from, of all places, Magoo's ice cream parlor.
Oh, yeah, the gum scraping incident. It's almost become legendary.
For those who haven't heard it, he refused to scrape gum off the floor and, well, he got fired.
And that experience seems to have had a profound impact on him. He decided right then and there that he would never work for anyone else again. He wanted that freedom, that control over his own destiny.
So that's where the entrepreneurial drive really kicked in.
It seems so. He wanted to be his own boss. And it's interesting because alongside that drive, he also had this foundation of, financial discipline instilled in him by his mother.
You're talking about her advice to always invest a third of his earnings.
Exactly. So you have this combination of an intense desire for independence and a real understanding of the importance of managing money. It's a powerful mix.
So armed with those lessons, and a $10,000 loan from his mother, he co-founded SoftKey in 1986. Now, this was the early days of personal computing.
Yeah, the Wild West of software. And SoftKey's initial strategy was pretty straightforward. They packaged software, things like games and educational programs, onto floppy disks and later CDs, and sold them at retail stores.
So they weren't necessarily developing the software themselves.
Not at first. Their real skill was in marketing and distribution. They knew how to get their products in front of consumers.
One of their early hits was KeyChart, which was bundled with Hewlett-Packard plotters. And it's interesting because they only made 12 cents a copy?
Yeah, but they sold millions of copies. It was a volume game. O'Leary understood that even small margins could add up to big profits if you could sell enough units.
He also partnered with John Freeman to launch the company.
That's right. But as SoftKey grew, O'Leary bought out Freeman, signaling his ambition and control of the company's direction.
And that direction involved a pretty aggressive pricing strategy.
Yeah. They started selling software at $40, which was already lower than a lot of their competitors. But then they dropped the price to $20 and eventually even $10.
And this approach, while it certainly made software more affordable, also drew some criticism.
Oh, yeah. Some people argued that the quality of the software suffered. They said that SoftKey was cutting corners, skimping on packaging, and not investing enough in development.
But O'Leary was unapologetic. He saw it as a way to disrupt the market and make software accessible to a wider audience.
And to a certain extent, he succeeded. SoftKey became a major player in the software industry.
And then came the big move into educational software. In 1995, they acquired the learning company, TLC, for a whopping $606 million.
And this acquisition marked a significant shift in SoftKey's strategy. They were no longer just a distributor, they were now a major developer and publisher of educational software.
And they went on a buying spree, acquiring companies like WordStar, Broderbund, MECC, Mindscape. It was like they were gobbling up all these established software brands.
And that's exactly what they were doing. O'Leary's strategy was to acquire these companies, streamline their operations, often through layoffs, and then slash prices to boost sales.
It was a strategy that generated a lot of controversy. Some people accused him of, well, destroying the educational software industry by focusing on profits over quality.
There's a famous quote from Susan Schilling, who was the VP of Product Development at MECC, one of the companies that SoftKey acquired. She said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that O'Leary was more interested in making money than in educating children.
That's a pretty harsh assessment.
It is, but it does reflect a certain tension that existed between O'Leary's business approach and the values of the educational software community.
But despite the criticism, SoftKey, or TLC as it was now known, amassed a huge portfolio of software franchises. We're talking Rita Rabbit, The Oregon Trail, Carmen Sandiego. These were household names.
They were. And for a while, it seemed like O'Leary could do no wrong.
But then came the sale to Mattel in 1999, a massive deal, $4.2 billion.
It was hailed as a triumph at the time, but in hindsight, it turned out to be one of the worst corporate mergers in history.
What happened?
Well, Mattel ended up losing billions of dollars. Their stock price plummeted, and they faced a class action lawsuit from angry shareholders. It was a disaster.
And what about O'Leary? How did he fare in all of this?
Well, he walked away with a tidy profit, of course, but reportedly, his personal take from the deal was only around $11.2 million, which, considering the overall sale price, isn't that much.
So even though he profited personally, he was still associated with one of the biggest business failures of all time.
Right, and that's a lesson in itself. Even when you win, you can still lose. Sometimes the reputational damage can be significant, even if your bank account is doing okay.
So after the roller coaster ride of SoftKey and the Mattel debacle, O'Leary makes a pretty dramatic shift. He enters the world of television.
Yeah. First, he appeared on the Canadian show Dragon's Den, which is similar to Shark Tank. And then, of course, he landed a spot on Shark Tank itself, which really made him a global celebrity.
And that's where Mr. Wonderful was born. The tough, blunt investor who's always looking for a deal, always focused on the bottom line.
And, his persona on the show, it's definitely a carefully crafted image, but it's also very effective. He's become one of the most recognizable and quotable figures in business.
And it's not just Shark Tank. He's done other TV shows, written books, become a kind of financial guru.
Right. He's built a whole brand around his, let's call it, unique personality and his investment philosophy.
And speaking of his investment philosophy, one of the things that stands out is his preference for royalty deals. Money.
Yeah. He's a big believer in passive income, in creating streams of revenue that flow in without him having to be actively involved in the day-to-day operations of a business.
He also founded O'Leary Funds, an investment management firm that has grown significantly over the years.
And he's made numerous investments through Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, backing companies in a wide range of industries.
So what are some of the key takeaways from Kevin O'Leary's journey? What can we learn from his successes and his failures?
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons is the importance of finding a problem and solving it. O'Leary is always looking for businesses that address a real need in the market.
He also stresses the importance of financial literacy. You have to understand your numbers, be able to articulate your business plan clearly, and be prepared to answer tough questions about your financials.
Absolutely. And he's not afraid to tell entrepreneurs that they need to get their act together if they want to succeed.
Another important lesson is the value of resilience. O'Leary has had his share of setbacks, but he's always bounced back. He doesn't dwell on the past. He learns from it and moves on.
And I think it's important to note that his success isn't just about being ruthless or cutthroat. He's also a very strategic thinker. He's always looking for ways to leverage his assets and create opportunities.
And he's not afraid to take risks. Sometimes those risks pay off, sometimes they don't, but he's always willing to put himself out there.
And that's something that I think we can all learn from. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an investor, or just someone who wants to achieve your goals, you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone and take some chances.
Kevin O'Leary's story is a fascinating one. It's full of twists and turns, ups and downs, and it offers some valuable insights into the world of business, finance, and, life in general.
It really does, and I think it's a story that can inspire anyone who's looking to make their mark on the world.
Now, speaking of inspiring individuals, in our next deep dive, we'll be exploring the incredible life of Madam C.J. Walker. She was a pioneer in the hair care industry, a philanthropist, and one of the first self-made female millionaires in America.
Oh, she's an amazing figure. Her story is a testament to the power of entrepreneurship, hard work, and the unwavering pursuit of a dream. You won't want to miss it.
So if you were inspired by Kevin O'Leary's strategic genius and unwavering determination, hit that like button. It really helps others discover these powerful stories.
And be sure to leave a comment below. Let us know what aspects of Kevin O'Leary's journey resonated with you the most. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of resilience and success. We'll see you next time for the captivating story of Madam C.J. Walker.